I'm also an attorney and investor based out of Los Angeles. I've been doing this work for the last 3 years, primarily just investing in cannabis businesses, cannabis brands. Before that, my previous life, I was a public defender in New Orleans for many years, represented lots of clients charged for small possession of cannabis, all the way up to large weight cases. And I noticed that a lot of my clients were facing mandatory life in prison. I noticed that a lot of my clients were incarcerated for 60 days for small possession, and then booked, and then charged with crimes. And that was part of the reason why I joined the cannabis industry, was to actually push for a world in which those people were not being put in jail for cannabis. Which brings us to our discussion on social equity. And so I will let them introduce themselves more fully, but we have Chris Mczantzy, Jeff Mizansky, and Miss Roz McCarthy here with us today. And give them all a round of applause. And I thought we'd start, I hope many of you have already heard Jeff's story, but if we're going to talk about social equity, we have to talk about the people who have been most harmed by the war on drugs. And Jeff, I'll turn it over to you to tell these folks what you've been through.
Thank you. As you know, my name's Jeff Mizansky. I live right here in Missouri, Sedalia, Missouri. I was the guy that was unfortunate enough to be the only one that had a life without the possibility of parole here in Missouri. Well, fortunately, through my case, that has been thrown off the books. That no longer is possible here in Missouri. We've got a team of lawyers that are responsible for that. It's fantastic. But we still have a lot of problems here in Missouri. This is great what's going on here. And if I were still sitting in prison, we probably wouldn't even hardly know about it, because you don't get this kind of information in prison. We don't know how the industry is going on. I don't know half of what's going on. When I came out, I was so shocked that we have a completely different culture. I remember when I got locked up, I had radios that were big as shoeboxes, or telephones. Now you got them. Still don't know how to use them. I could call out, that's about it. But anyhow, all in prison, we know what goes on. We know some of our younger people that are going in there are being used and abused. We know they're going in, a lot of them nonviolent, for marijuana use. But when they come out, they've had all kinds of training for everything else. And a lot of them are going to go to it. Reason being is jobs. You come out of prison with nothing after going through hell, being in prison, and when you have nothing, what do you got to do? Whatever you can to survive. In the case of a lot of guys and women that come out that have been in the marijuana business and been locked up for it, they know the ins and outs. You got a ready market of people ready to work for you. But unfortunately, a lot of them can't. So that's some of the things we have to change. And as far as black, white, yellow, red, you know what? There's no bounds. They really don't care. They want somebody in the prison, in the bed, so they can collect taxes from you. That's what it's all about. It's really unfair the way people are locked up. If you don't have no money, expect to do time, because they're going to get $1 out of you one way or another, and that's if you're paying them or if you're doing time for them. One way or another, you're going to do $1. And a lot of times, a hell of a lot more than $1. And I can sit here and tell you a whole lot about what goes on in prisons, about the guys getting raped, about the guys that have no way out, are waiting for these younger guys to come in that have been arrested for marijuana cases. And they prey on them. They come to them and they'll tell you, look, either you're going to have your family start bringing in drugs, or else we're going to do this. Well, get a 17, 18-year-old guy in there and then get 4 or 5 guys in there that's been around the block several times that ain't afraid to do anything, and I'm not saying anything. So what do you have besides trouble? What are you teaching that younger guy? You're teaching him to come out here and be an asshole is what you're teaching him. And that's something we can't afford. We need to break the chain. We need to change it. Now I came out, the day I came out, I started working for change, for the prison system, and for legalization on medical. I worked on both petition, New Approach, Show Me Cannabis. We gathered thousands of signatures across this state. And it was an honor, because I shouldn't be here. I shouldn't have been able to do that. I was in prison forever. According to what they told me, I was supposed to be dying, and they're still yet today. Because my son, because people like you that actually took time and cared and listened and realized what was going on, did that change? And it wasn't easy. I mean, I think they had about 450,000 signatures. We had senators, representatives, and I couldn't tell you how many people wrote in and called the government. I just don't know. But still yet, you all twisted their arms. But that tells me something else. We twisted their arms. Or I should say, you all twisted their arms. I had nothing to do with it. They wouldn't let me. But I was rewarded for it. I was rewarded by getting out. It's like being reborn. And we still have a problem. We have people in there, still over 2,000 people in the United States doing life or life without for nonviolent crimes such as marijuana. That's not counting 30-year sentences, 50-year sentences, 20-year sentences. It's not counting none of that. They just count life and life without. We're out here enjoying this. And I'm very, very lucky to be here. I'm one of the lucky ones. But how about all of our brothers and sisters that are still sitting behind bars? We're able here to start businesses here in Missouri. And the one thing I'd really like to ask is, don't forget our prisoners. They're still in there. They need your help. It's not only for them, but they're for families. Because their families are suffering. Their mothers, their fathers, brothers and sisters and cousins, their kids. And I'm not going to go real far into that. My son's here. He can kind of step into some of the hard falls that he's had through his life because of me being in prison. It's something we really have to change on. We also have to change on the fairness of who's going to prison. It's really unequal. And when you're inside prison, you see it more and more. And I hate to say it, but black people have a raw deal on that. A lot of them don't have the money to fight it. If you don't have the money to fight it, if you remember what I said to start with, you're going to do the time. If you don't have thousands and thousands of people behind you, you're pretty much forgot. And it's hard. It's hard to be away from your families. It's hard to know that you got a child growing up out there without you and you can't help. It's hard to know your mother, your father's dying and you can't go do nothing. Those are the things that you have to put up with. So, the most thing we can do with this business conference and everything else, which is fantastic. I mean, I fought for this as much as anybody else. And it's wonderful. I can't believe it's finally here in Missouri. But the fight's not over. It's not over until each and every one of them people walk out of prison. And we stop getting arrested for something that we need in our bodies. So, I'm getting a little over emotional here. I better hand this off. I'm going to just flooded up here. So, thank you very much.
It's all right.
How you guys doing today? My name's Chris Mczantzy. My dad, of course, you just talked to. I was just 15 when he went to prison. I can't say I was the best kid in the world. I probably had my problems, but when he went to prison, it caused a lot of change in my family's life, my life, all the way down to his grandkids, my elder family. If he had stayed out, I would have graduated high school, which I didn't. If he'd have stayed out, I'd have probably had a lot more college education, which I didn't. My mom worked her butt off constantly to cover up when he went to prison. He took the breadwinner away. So I started work early. Pretty much why I quit school was to go to work. Fast forward some years, in 2011, I come across Show Me Cannabis, and they were fighting to legalize in Missouri. So I got involved with them, which is the best thing you could ever do, is get involved with a corporation or something like that to get some people behind you. But in the amount of time from 2011 to 2015, we ended up collecting, like he said, 450,000 signatures, did multiple newscasts and multiple radio interviews, and people were coming to prison to see him, and they were coming to the house to see me, and we got the word out. And how we did that is just by basically people like you guys that are invested in the same interests as we have and thought it was a shitty deal, sorry about my language, that he went to prison for life without parole over some pot. So in the end, if I would have never got involved and if I'd have never stepped up and tried to do anything, he'd still be sitting there right now and nobody even know who his name is, what his name was or what he did, how much time he had. So if anything you take away from his situation and several other people in Missouri is get involved and help out. If you are planning to get into business, break some money aside for those folks. If you're planning to do anything in the industry, remember the folks that you left behind that are still behind bars and prison. And try and look out for them. When you make a little bit of money, put some aside and put it in there for them. Because they're the ones that need the help now. We got lucky with him and he got out, but like he said, there's so many more that's in there that are suffering in 15 years, 20 years, 30 years, even 10, 5. A year's too many, so like he said, the fight isn't over until we really win and everybody's out of prison and you can't go to jail for it, then don't forget them. And please get involved with your, like I say, Show Me Cannabis, New Approach, all of them. Anybody you can get involved with, the Black Lives Matter movement, anybody that's pushing for that change and pushing for equality or anything else, get on board and help them, guys. Because I tell you what, without one little incident of me getting involved with them, we wouldn't be sitting here today with him free. That one little change altered my whole life back on track to what 23 years later, mind you, that my dad's a free man. He gets to see his grandkids. He gets to sleep in a bed. So if anything, take that in, man. Y'all, if you get into business and you make it, pay it forward, man, because it really does help. So, and I think that's all I got to say.
Thank you both, Jeff and Chris, for sharing that. I'm going to try to get quickly over to Roz, who's going to talk about the things that we can do and ought to do and need to do to make this as right as possible. But I realize that some of you may not know what a social equity program is, and so I just wanted to quickly run through that, because this is basically the path through regulations and law that we can make sure people like Jeff and Chris can get into this industry. And actually, that actually brings up a point. Jeff, can you participate in this legal cannabis industry in Missouri right now as it stands?
As far as I know, I can get a license to be a patient But as far as doing a dispensary or a grow for dispensary, I cannot. I believe the waiting time is 5 years after you get off of parole, if I'm not mistaken. It's unfortunate because there's a lot of good people out there that might be able to get into it a lot quicker and possibly stay out of jail, stay out of prisons.
Couldn't
If we could
agree
get
more.
that part of it changed.
He can't right now, but I can, and I plan to.
That's right. That's right. So I bring that up, one, to highlight probably the gravest continuing injustice as it relates to this issue in Missouri, which is that Amendment 2 specifically prohibits, I'll actually just pull that up quickly. Amendment 2 specifically prohibits people who have a felony conviction, whether it's nonviolent or not, if you served a day of time, you're prohibited from 5 years from the day you get off parole or off probation or out of prison. Which means, and you know, you all have been here listening to panels all day. You know that 5 years is an eternity in this industry. 6 months is you know, enough for real change, right? We're expecting complete legal change to the banking system. This is a green rush, and you're gonna keep these two, excuse me, not Chris, because he's getting in, if anyone.
Hopefully.
But the law as it stands would keep Jeff out of this industry as an employee even for 5 years. So social equity is promoting equitable ownership and employment opportunities in the cannabis industry in order to decrease the disparities in life outcomes for marginalized communities and to address the disproportionate impacts of the war on drugs in those communities. Just for reference, Missouri, you know, from 2014 to 2016, so think of this as like a 2-year spread, almost 60,000 people were arrested for possession of marijuana in Missouri, right? If you look at the slide in the top left corner, you're not the bottom of the barrel, but you're pretty high up there. And just to talk about some of the consequences to incarceration, that is a very, very long list. An independent study in California looking at social equity programs found that 641 different distinct consequences existed for those who had been incarcerated. 78% of them they determined would last a lifetime, and only 20% of those consequences were something that if you could afford to hire a lawyer or go through those administrative proceedings, it could be removed sort of from your record and no longer cause that same impact. And Roz, I'll actually turn it over to you to talk about the work that you're doing with M4MM, just given the amount of time that we have.
Exactly, and because we want to open it up for questions, we want to have conversation. Can you hear me well out there? Hi. Hi, everyone. My name is Roz McCarthy, and I'm the founder and the CEO of Minorities for Medical Marijuana. I started Minorities for Medical Marijuana in 2016 in Orlando, Florida, with the thought that, you know, I am a product of a community that saw the war on drugs in the 80s and the 90s. I saw, and with all due respect, thank you for sharing your story, and thank you for being honest about that the black folks get a raw deal, and it's real. He's not joking around with it. 4 to 5 times more likely to get arrested and to be incarcerated and to also get longer terms of sentencing. When you're talking about this and how there's targeting and disproportionate individuals of color, Florida was getting ready to have an amendment on the ballot for a medical marijuana program. I thought about the social justice issues. I thought about the fact that from a business ownership opportunity issue, you know, I have the fortunate to be married to someone who talks about entrepreneurship, how you talk about being a producer versus a consumer. And there's so many disparities in regards to business opportunities and business development. And then we talked about healthcare disparity and understanding not just, you know, just healthcare across the board. And now you're going to introduce a new plant that we've been going to jail for, that we've been incarcerated for, that families have broken up for. And now you're saying now it's legal medicine, and now you're going to have to change people's mindset. I lost my mom in 2005 to breast cancer. Seeing her decline, I knew that cannabis could have been a better option. I have a 20-year-old son who has sickle cell anemia. My kid, I never want to be targeted and for anyone to look at him as an African-American male as someone who's lazy. And these are the words that are put on our lazy, don't want to work, freeloading, Sometimes we are prisoners of our circumstances. And with that being said, I didn't want my kid to be clumped up in one group of saying this is how you are, because that's not how he is. He's a brilliant young man who's in school right now to become a pharmacist. So I started Minorities for Medical Marijuana with the intent and purposes of focusing on health and wellness, social equity and social justice issues, business development and economic development, and the number one thing, and I want you guys to hear me good, if we set good public policy from our legislators, if you hold them accountable, the reason why you have that language in there is because legislators put that there. If we're not in front of them saying, hey, don't you think that's excessive to have a 5-year felony ban? In Florida, you have to pass a federal level 2 background check to even be employed. There are some states that said if you've ever been convicted of any type of drug offense, you can't be employed in the industry. What is it that means if I've gone to jail for this plant, that means if I come out, I've served my time, I've served my time. I'm speaking of individuals, like I went to school and from 87 to 92 in college. I know individuals got popped that are still in prison 20-something years ago. They can't come out now and have a living. And now you're gonna say, now, I had the opportunity to attend an event that says, we're capitalists, we wanna make money. Well, gosh darn it. How do we make sure that other folks can make money that haven't had the opportunity, right? So I don't want to regurgitate. I don't want to go and, a lot of you have heard this before. So now we talk about what's the solutions? What do we do? Missouri, let me tell you something. I travel all across this country, back and forth. We have 25 chapters throughout the country. If you want to find us, m4mmunited.org, m4mmunited.org. You can find us, you can contact us, we're here. I travel all over. And with that traveling, we know there's so much work to do and there's so much public policy writing that needs to be done. You guys have one of the best infrastructure bills I've seen throughout the country. Let me remind you, you have 8 congressional districts. In all 8 congressional districts, you're gonna have 24 dispensary licenses per congressional district. 24 times 8 is what? 192, right? 192. Right. You guys, in Florida right now, there's 14 license holders. It's vertical. So does everybody know what a vertical model versus business model versus horizontal? Who doesn't know? Don't be shy. You know vertical versus horizontal business model. All right, let me explain it. A vertical model in a state, that means you do everything from seed to sale. You cultivate, you manufacture, you process, you dispense, you retail dispense, and you deliver. One license. The application fee in Florida is $60,000. $60,000 with no guarantee. Your dispensary application fee in Missouri, you have a horizontal business model, meaning you don't have to be the master of everything. If you want to cultivate, you cultivate. If you want to make edibles, you get your license to make edibles. If you think you have great customer service and you want to be able to deliver a retail experience with great products, you have a dispensary. You don't have to be the master of everything. If you want to do lab testing, then you set up a lab testing services. So with that being said, you guys have an opportunity from a dispensary perspective, $6,000 for your application. It's still expensive, but it's so different. So we talk about solutions. There is not going to be a social equity carve-out. If you've heard about social equity, it's happening in California, Oakland, San Francisco, Los Angeles, Sacramento is on board. So basically what it says in that social equity type of the program, it basically says if you've been harmed by the war on drugs, or if you've been targeted, in Oakland they have these arrest hotspots. And they have all these different areas where there's hotspots, where there's been direct targeting. Their research has shown if you lived in those areas and you were incarcerated for possession, then you got front of the line in regards to getting your license to do business. Sounds like a winner, right? Sounds like right?
Could be.
Well, guess what? It's not. Let me tell you why. You have a program that you're trying to set people up to be successful. However, you're not giving them the infrastructure of understanding what that means and being prepared to run a business, to have the, what did you say?
Money.
The money. It's no joke in here, guys. If you guys are really, I don't care if you black, brown, or whatever, white, purple, yellow, brown, if you're looking to enter this industry, it's a very serious business. It's the most highly regulated industry that you can come by nowadays. You have 280E from an accounting perspective. You have the compliance, the seed to sale tracking. There's so many nuances to this business. So let me tell you, it's not for the faint of heart. So for the social equity, so Missouri's not going to have a social equity program like Oakland because, one, you have to have the infrastructure from a constitutionality of for your bill. It doesn't lay opportunity for that. And what we don't want to happen is a lot of litigation saying you have a set aside or what have you. What you guys have is a great market for competition. If you guys get your stuff together, if you're able to look at the framework of establishing your business, understand how to apply, understand exactly what it means to form teams, understand exactly when do you need to have a consultant, how do you do your build out, what's your odor mitigation plan, what's your construction plan, am I going to do indoor grow, am I going to do outdoor grow? You got to become the master of this. And so that's why you guys are at this conference, but that's exactly what we're supporting. M4MM is having a boot camp in partnership with Oaksterdam University, presenting, sponsored by Green Rush Consulting, that we are going to be intentional. We're not playing around with it. If you come to that boot camp, we're going to give you so many tools for you to walk away and figure out, you're going to either decide, yes, I'm going to do this, or no, I'm not. And you're not going to waste your money. But be careful out there when you're looking out here. Be careful of people asking for not millions, but thousands of dollars to set up your business. Do your due diligence. Do your research. Be careful. Social equity is so key, and the main thing about equity means we want ownership. Let me tell you guys, besides ownership of a business at Touch Plant, ownership is the ancillary businesses as well. So if you have a business idea, if you are, any attorneys in the room? Attorneys, besides the one next to me? Attorneys? Yes. We got anybody in real estate? Realtors? Anybody in marketing? Anybody case management, social worker, patient advocate, nurses? Let me tell you guys, if you're not set up to have your own license, there's ancillary businesses that have to support this cannabis ecosystem. It will not happen. I cannot have a dispensary without making sure the people know how to go get their medical marijuana card. And you have to make sure that you do the education. You have to make sure you do the outreach. Anyone with social media, these companies are going to need you to do their social media. So I just want to encourage you to stay engaged. Please go by our table if you want more information regarding the boot camp. You can go to our website, www.m4mmunited.org. But again, know that we are trying to make sure that if we don't have a specific social equity program, there's a need for us to be able to uplift the people that the gentleman spoke about, to give them an opportunity. And really in the future, Missouri, it starts with policy. We need to be talking to our legislators and saying, listen, we want to see good policy that's going to support, one, decriminalizing the plant, no more arrest for something that's now legal. That makes no sense. I mean, those two are a dichotomy, right? And we also want to understand, how do we clear records, expunging records? So if you have a minor possession, let's start with minor possession, adjudication withheld for marijuana. Do you know that clearing someone's record could change their whole entire life when it comes to getting credit, when it comes to getting an apartment, when it comes to finding a job? That just one little thing that can happen can change lives. So we want to change lives and we want to make this happen. So thank you guys for your time. I know we want to open it up for questions, but thank you so much. So we have a mic in the middle if you have a question, if you have a concern, or if you have if you have an idea or anything that you think we should be implementing, let us know.
Hi, everybody. I'm not sure if I don't think any of you are lawyers or in the state, right? You said you were from California.
Out-of-state lawyer, yeah.
Florida, okay.
Yeah.
Well, I was wanting to know, is there currently any legislation, or does anybody know in the room, is there legislation about decriminalizing marijuana currently in the state of Missouri? Decriminalized in the entire state? Okay, all right. So that's information I didn't know.
So let's talk.
I don't know about that.
Oh, right.
I don't know about that.
It's,
So,
But let's do this. Hold on. So her question was about decriminalized. Is it decriminalized? And we had a comment in the back that's already decriminalized. I didn't think it was, but I would.
it's not.
It is.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Right. So,
Jackson County, which is Kansas City, they've said that they will just not do it anymore.
right.
there is a bill in Missouri that passed in 2015. If you weren't a prior offender and you got busted with less than 10 grams, they would wipe it off of your record and
Okay.
let you start over.
Okay.
But that's the only thing that has passed so far.
So far.
That I know of.
So again, let me put something else for you guys to think about. When you have municipalities that have different kind of bills, like one city has this, and you guys have you're like Georgia, because Georgia has a situation where you have county, then you got a city, then you got one little city here, and you go from one city to the next. And if you good over here, but you get popped over here, that's why at the state level is where you want good policy. So whoever is your senator, whoever is your House rep, that's who you want to call. Just do me a favor, email them. Say, hi, we want to see a decriminalization bill for Missouri. If we send emails out like that, just left and right, coming from different constituents throughout the state, do you know the power? They work for you.
And it works because that's how he got out.
Yes.
We pounded on him until they decided to come with us. So,
Excuse me,
No, go
I'll
ahead.
inject something there. I was told by senators and representatives that actually writing a letter and sending it off that way holds more weight in their eyes than sending just an email.
or a phone call even.
Or even a phone call. So, I mean, you want to make the best possible thing out of it. Write a letter, because they consider, like a letter might be 10 votes, email might be 5 votes, a telephone call might be 2 votes. That's how they figure everything.
Right.
And the more votes they're after, it makes sense to me once you think about it, because if somebody actually takes time and writes something out, that person's more likely going to be at the polls voting.
Absolutely.
And she's right. Our government's supposed to be working for us. Unfortunately, we're working for our government.
That's right.
And it's time to change it around.
It is.
And there's only one answer. They tell you they're going to do something, they don't do it.
Vote
You
them
know
out.
what?
Vote them out.
Vote their asses out. Put somebody in there that will.
That's right. Sure.
Go ahead.
Actually, a little bit more of a statement, just because I'm in a like-minded room. You may or may not be aware of this, but there actually is a bill right now in front of the Missouri State Legislature that would give 10 extra points to women majority business ownership and minority business ownership in the application process.
Yes.
Now, it's in front of a committee that has 5 Republicans and 3 Democrats. It's sponsored by a Democratic senator from Kansas City, Senator Curls. So hit your local people and say, this needs to happen.
Right. Well, I will tell you that when it comes to if it doesn't come in from a legislative process, one thing is we're working with Representative Wiley Price, Representative Roberts. We're working with them because you can actually talk to the Department of Health. And I would encourage you guys, if you're out here looking to team up or what have you, and you want to have a vertical license opportunity, find someone that comes not from that if you want to serve our community, find someone that resides in our community, partner up with them to be able to deliver services together. Because if you can show the strength of partnership, it makes a difference. And what we're trying to do is we're trying to get the Department of Health, when they create that application, you have several different sections. They're going to ask about your operations, they're going to ask about your security plan, they're going to ask about odor mitigation, and all these different sections. Well, in some states like New Jersey, New York, Pennsylvania, Florida, there's a diversity planning section. And that section asks about what's your supplier diversity initiative? What's your workforce development diversity initiative? Do you have any board of directors who are women who are African American. Not just putting one person on there and saying, I'm diverse. Do you have a diversity program? And let me tell you something that's happening. We saw states where people would flood to the state, go find someone that is a part of the NAACP, put them on the application, and now I'm diverse. And in Oakland, they call black folks that are social equity applicants, they call them CHIPs. The general applicant, they have something called an incubator. So if you're a general applicant, then you incubate a social equity applicant. And the more social equity applicants you incubate, the likely you are to get your own dispensary. So what they were going around doing was they were going out to equity applicants, giving them $1,000, getting them a part of their application, and then once they get them in, they just leave them out. It's the most fucked up shit you ever, excuse my language, that you ever want to see in life.
You said it right.
I swear. So next question. Sorry.
Hi, I personally provide ancillary services as a cannabis accountant, and we agreed as a firm to give an agreed upon percentage of our top line revenue back to the community.
Yes.
And we just are wondering the best way to use these funds in the community to make the most impact. Is there any recommendations?
I think, and then we got a feedback. So listen. So one, y'all need to see. But I think, like, okay. So you guys know there's a marijuana tax fund that comes out of like Colorado collected. Sorry, excuse me. Denver, not Colorado. Denver collected $38 million in tax revenue in 2017. $38 million in taxes. They did $560 million in just in Denver of medical. Not the whole state, and Denver has 600,000, the Denver area, 600,000, the population center. So with that being said, they carved out, they did some to the police force and some to education and some to, you know what, and I respect all that, but you know what, they have legislative budgets, and if they want something done, they get it done. We have individuals who want to enter this industry. They want it from maybe an ancillary business perspective or maybe touch and plant. What I would do is take that revenue, sit it there, and look at how you can create work development, not work development, but business development and helping people to come in and get their slice of the pie in regards to, from a business perspective, we want ownership. We want to be capitalists just like everybody else. So if that means that we're capitalists in our ancillary business, or if we get a chance to go after our own license in our application, and say for example, we got 3,000 and you do a matching with that 3,000 so we can go and apply for our license. Well, instead of having to have a whole 6,000, we got 3, you're gonna match our other 3, and we now apply for a license. So there's ideas I have, and I know we have each other's information, but those are the type of things I wanna see. Nothing against the K through 12 support education, I love it. I have a kid in 10th grade, but you know what, you get funding. I want the people that have been marginalized, who don't get the opportunity, let's put something aside and let's help them figure out how to get in this industry. Let's help them win. I don't want the .com that 20 years from now, you got an industry that's huge and the people that reflect it don't reflect our community. So.
One thing I would add is there's a gentleman right here in the front row, and if you take a turn around the expo floor, I think I've seen at least 4 or 5 different organizations that would be doing great work right here in St. Louis. But you know, a lot of those organizations are nonprofits, and they rely on those donations. And so I would encourage everybody. And that's, you talk about what can we do. The way I see it is here you have a real block with prosecutors making the decision to, and thankfully they have in St. Louis City and County made the decision not to prosecute cannabis, but that has not been done throughout the state. You also have the hurdle of Amendment 2 and the prohibition on folks who've been incarcerated for cannabis being led into the industry for 5 years. I think you should lobby to get that completely removed or changed. The other things that you can do is you can hire, right? I think one of the things we as an industry,
And just to piggyback on that, InfraMM is currently working in development right now, a web-based platform that connects diverse candidates to the cannabis industry. So we're doing it. We've been looking for funding for it. So if anybody wants to be a uncle or an aunt and help bless us, but it's called Brew, B-R-U-E. And if you go to brewjobs, BRUE jobs.com, we are going to, I am determined, and when I'm determined, we're going to have that platform that we're going to be able to market it out there so that diverse candidates, I don't want to hear anymore, I can't find them. So you know what? When I was in corporate America and I was looking to make changes, I would say I was motivated, but I was inspired by, some of you guys know Diversity Inc. had their job board, right? So when we were in college, we would go on Diversity Inc.'s job board because we felt like if you as a company were going and putting your job on Diversity Inc., you were looking, at least you were making an effort to want to say, I want that more diverse people. So that's what I'm creating, that type of platform that says diverse candidates, if you're looking for opportunities in this industry, here's the cannabis companies that say, yes, I want to be on that platform. And we are determined to get this out by second quarter 2019. Yes, ma'am.
Oh, I'm sorry. I just wanted to add a comment. I echo everything that you and Jeff just shared. Because community engagement and mobilization is a space that I work in a lot, I will also encourage you to engage the community and think about ways to build relationships so that it's community-centric, and so community can help you make the decision around where the funds can go, the additional revenue that you all have, so that the community as a whole are buying into the work and also thinking about where the funding can go. So if there's an opportunity to engage your community, I would encourage you to use the community to help make that decision as well.
It's awesome. Thank you. Last one.
Hi, I just wanted to say that I'm really passionate about all this social equity stuff, and if you guys want to stay connected, I created a closed Facebook group. It's called Missouri's Women and Minorities Professional Cannabis Network. So if you guys want to join that, I'd be happy for that, and it's just a place where we can all stay connected.
Good.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's called, it's a long name, sorry. Missouri Women and Minorities Professional Cannabis Network. It's a closed group on Facebook. So just, you have to answer a couple of questions so we make sure that you're true blue, but then we'll let you in. Thanks.
Sure. Yep.
And can I add, before you do, can I add just one thing as well? My name is Derrick Mays, everyone. I'm the founder and CEO of Real Cannabis Company. I just want to let everyone know, hey, look, this is not an easy industry to get into at all. It took me 6 months to realize I didn't know what I didn't know. And I just want everyone to be very careful here because I love seeing the diversity, but I know that a lot of people are getting into this without really understanding. Roz mentioned a lot of the obstacles that we're going to have to cover. Please go to people like Roz, or please go to people who have been in this industry for a while and really understand the problems that you'll be facing in order to be successful in this industry. It is no joke whatsoever, okay? It's very serious. It takes a lot of money. There's a lot of pre-filed application fees that a lot of people are not gonna see that money again because you don't know what you're getting into. So I just want everyone to be very, very careful. Take your time, make sure that you understand what you're doing before you get in too deep.
Sure, sorry. I'm from Illinois, and I got involved in the industry in 2014, and at that time, Colorado was sort of the center of the universe for cannabis, and it seemed like if you weren't in Colorado, there was sort of like, you were behind, and it was maybe too late to even get involved. And I did some touring around Colorado, and every meeting and conference I went to was really largely white men. And it was early days for Illinois. We had just legalized, and I thought, well, I just don't want Illinois to turn into that. So I founded a not-for-profit called Illinois Women in Cannabis in August 2014. And really my idea was just to raise awareness for women, you know, white women, minority women, all women. This is coming to our state, and like, don't wait until kind of everything passes by you and then try to catch up. Let's try to get ahead of it. So we're about to celebrate our 5-year anniversary. We have a lot of work to do still in Illinois. But I have to say, just having that forum and that space, we created tons of networking events. They're attended by men and women. We don't exclude anybody, but our focus is to serve women and make them aware of opportunities. And I, you know, like I said, we could always do a lot more, but I know we've done a lot. And I would just, for any state that's sort of coming online in its early days, there can always be this feeling of it's too late. It's never too late. This is still early innings of this whole crazy experiment we're doing. And finding like-minded people and creating opportunities for each other is just a great way to go. So please do it.
Thank you, thank you. Thank you, guys. Thank you, guys, so much. Thank you, Zack.
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen, so much for, you know, and you guys talking, networking. Thank you again.